Uh-oh, I'm lagging a little bit. All right, we're back. We're back. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well and amazing this Thursday. So, if you're new here, hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is Rising Blissful. And let me just actually adjust the settings to make sure that captions pop up. Okay, because I'm on my PC. So, let me just check. Let me check that everything's okay. And I hope you're doing well. And if you are catching me live, say hello. If you're catching the replay, drop me a comment because I've replied to everybody. And I'm so excited to be digging into this topic today because it's related to my new offer, Soul Language. And the transmission and the download that I got for this program was through my writing. And that's how spirit works. As spiritual women, and with this way that I was shown on how to write. And I've tried so many different ways to write online, ways that I've learned from the past. I've been writing since very young. I love writing. I also have my Gemini North Node in Gemini, so that also impacts it. So I'm Stephanie, this is Rising Blissful, and I'm an intuitive business coach. I'm also a strategist, and my background is in marketing, branding, sales, what else? Entrepreneurship. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I'm also a homeschooler, and I love using video, live video, and soul-aligned sales and communication to really help you grow your business. So I love working with spiritual women that are just like me. And some of the modalities that I use, for instance, to really help you is both my psychology background. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, and I had a corporate background working with a bunch of brands like MTV, Reebok, Rockport. I also worked in some tech companies. And then I also had a business doing events. And I eventually streamlined that party planning business, which is a form of marketing, into event rentals. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. With my kids were really young, and I had appendicitis when I was 5 months pregnant. So that's how I came into the awakening of business and leaving the Maya and the system and the rat race, right? The churning rat race system that is regular corporations, the regular workspace. So it's been an amazing journey, and I've learned a lot as far as how to communicate. Both back then in my brick and mortar business and now in this online space. So I want to share it with you. I want to share that journey, that path that I've had, and all the different ways, all the things that have worked, that haven't worked, and all the ways that you can take writing when it comes to your business and all the forms that manifests. So the first one is journaling. And I feel like a lot of spiritual women do this as part of their practice. I certainly do. This is something that I picked up when I started my spiritual business. And it's great because you get to learn and do this brain dump of all your thoughts, and you get to learn what your thought process is, right? How you storytell, and also what your voice is like. And oftentimes our writing voice mimics our spoken voice. So if you've been doing my live challenge, 365 days of limitless live videos that I have up in my group, I'm going to link it up top and at the bottom in case you're not in there already. A lot of times when you hear yourself speak on video, you see the resemblance of your journalings. So I highly encourage you to pick up a journaling practice if you don't have one already, because it'll help you become a stronger writer and also a stronger speaker. And then our writing is also tied to reading. So if you don't read for at least 20 minutes every day, and you're not in the practice of continually teaching and expanding your knowledge, right? Because even if you've been to college and you have multiple degrees like I do, the lifespan of a degree is like 2 years. And now the way that technology is going, it's even shorter. So the way that we keep up to date in terms of knowledge and having something to share is through writing and through books. And that also helps with your language, your voice. You get to see how certain authors really step into their voice and own it. And it helps you in your own process when you're journaling. So I started journaling when I was really young. I used to have a lot of journals. I was that kind of girl. My mom and my family used to buy me journals, and I would just fill them up. I would write about everything. I would write about things that were going on in dance, things that were going on in school, in church, anything and everything. And I loved it. It was an outlet. It's also an emotional outlet. So it's great because you can process emotions in that way too. And in psychology, that's one of the tools that they also use whenever you're dealing with grief or any kind of heavy emotions, is processing them in a journal. So journaling is super powerful, and it's one of the ways that you can easily bring it back to your business, because you can start journaling things and ideas that pop up after you've meditated. So for me, I get a lot of things when I meditate, when I'm out in nature. I tap into Gaia, I tap into the earth codes, and those rivet and channel up, and then I'm able to transmit them out my fingers, right out of our hands, which are portals. Our hands are portals, and they help us to move. Just the movement of writing also helps us to move ideas and to move energy around. So for me, that has been the most important thing when it comes to my business, tying journaling in that way and having that really messy and creative space, which is also very childlike, to journaling. And we usually remember journaling from our early years. So you get to also tap into the innocence and the genius that we had as kids, which a lot of times as women, if we become moms, we've sort of tapped out of that. So journaling is an amazing, amazing thing to do. And it's also helped me also to improve my flow, my storytelling, the sequence of things, right? The beginning, middle, and end. Because even if you're writing a small piece of copy, not necessarily a really long form piece of copy, it should have a beginning, middle, and end. And you are telling a story. You are setting the stage, bringing in your senses, bringing in certain elements, certain flavors, these sensorial things that really transports your reader into the lesson and the teaching and the message that you're trying to convey. So journaling is really the main thing for that. The next thing is academic writing. So I was in a master's program, and in that program, I was a research assistant. So it was similar to a TA or a teacher's assistant. And as you go up right through the rungs of academia, you're forced to develop certain writing skills. Now, the problem is that when you're in academia, you tend to, especially if you're writing research reports and doing research like I was, your writing you can lose that heart and that passion and that vivid imagery and those lush details that you have when you do creative writing, that we're encouraged to do all the way up to high school. And even in some classes, for instance, in English and literature when you're in college. Once you get into really higher levels and you become more technical, if you're, for instance, in a science field like I was. So my writing, I noticed, became very sterile, very stoic, very technical, very dry, and there was less of the emotion, less of the feeling. And I'm a feeling and colorful goddess. So I noticed when I was writing these papers, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it. I don't feel like I'm in my element. Whereas other people in the same classes, right, and even my professors, they were like, oh, I love this form of writing, because they actually preferred not having any emotion. So that's one of the first clues that I realized that field, right, the research field wasn't for me, because I found myself wanting to tell that story, wanting to tell more of the narrative aspect of it, not just the results. So academic writing, though, really helped me with technical writing, which was what I eventually started using when I started my first business doing events. And technical writing is just very short, very dry, straight to the point, going down to the granular and the grit of what you're offering as far as your offers. And the reason why that's so important when it comes to sales, and that leads to having a very strong sales skill, is because people's attention spans are short. So you want to write what's included in your offer, in your product. In my case, in that instance with my first business, it was related to products and packages. You want to be as clear, concise, and straight to the point as possible, while also enticing them, right, and giving them a reason why to purchase, and also adding a little bit of emotion, but not too much, to be able to bring people in to buy. So academic writing definitely helped me in that sense. So learning the grammar aspects, right, the typical grammar aspects that we learn from like the books of Strunk and White, the the American Language Association and other manuals that I learned when I was in my BA and in my MA that helped me with that. But then once I started my online business and once I started my brand, right, my personal brand, when I went into doing homeschool blogging and vlogging, I had to undo that. I had to unlearn all of that to be able to find my voice again, to find my passion and tap into all of that creative writing that I loved, right? And my soul language, essentially, because that had been turned off, it had been stifled down. And I had been told that, hey, if you want to get high marks in papers, if you want to get these book deals when it comes to psychology, you can't write in this way. You can't write like a writer, like a creative writer or an author. So that was really tough. But then once I graduated, obviously, and then I went into business and I was doing marketing, then I was introduced to copywriting. Okay, and copywriting, I want you to think of copywriting as, in the business sense, it's what the masses see, what the platform or your niche or the people that are tuning into you, your soul people, what they see. And the reason why it has copy is because back in the day, right, in the old times before the internet and social media, the biggest form of copy was newspapers and magazines and flyers, right, and ads and business cards and things like that. And there was multiple copies of these print forms, of these media forms. So copywriting is literally sending that copy to press. Okay, so if you feel eluded or you feel unclear, it's like, oh, what's the difference between copywriting and content marketing or content writing? Content marketing, on the other hand, is just the content, right? Just what your theme is and what you're repetitiously writing about and selling about. And the content speaks for itself, because within the content, you show your expertise, you show your knowledge, you show how you're continuously growing in that space, and you're walking and talking what you're preaching in your content. And you're bringing that all together into this beautiful piece of content that's unique, and it's inimitable. It's unreplicable because it's yours. And that content then becomes a pillar, especially if you continually keep writing about certain topics or certain pillars in your business. And you shouldn't have too many of them, obviously. But so copywriting is a little different, because copywriting is just assuming that somebody's going to be interacting with your brand for the first time, and they're going to be reading that piece of copy, and it has to hook them in. It has to bring them in. It has to educate them. It has to have them feel something. And I like to think of the CO aspect. So carbon monoxide, and how when we speak and we give oxygen, we give life out, it produces CO. So when you're creating copy, you're giving life force energy. There should be life to it. People should feel something. They should walk away from that and feel like, wow, I've been moved. I feel like I want more of that. I want to implement what I read, or I want more. It's like an appetizer. I want more. And then usually in that copywriting, there's an option, or there's a call to action, a CTA, to go and dig deeper in that same topic and learn more, either through a course, through a program. And you've seen me share all of that. So there's an art to copywriting, but the typical people in the space, right, in any industry really, they see copywriting in a way that's very masculine. It's very push, push, push. And the way that Spirit has shown me how to approach this is very right brain or intuitive sense. And I'm also dyslexic. So it's very much mirroring my gift and my genius and my power in that sense too. Because it's really turning copywriting on its tail, on a different approach and end than what I've ever learned before in any writing course that I've taken, in any writing program that I've seen online. And it's using the intuitive mind, right? Also imagery to really create a story. And it also, at the same time, it creates this domino effect where you also get transmissions and you get the names of programs, that you get the names of products. And instead of using the old method, which is you create the product and then you create pieces of copywriting, of content marketing, of media like quotes or whatever to support that and to transmit that and to market it, it's the other way around. you first write your soul messages, and then as you do that, then the offer or the program is given, and it feels natural. It feels like you're giving birth, which is so feminine, which is what I love. I feel like women, as a woman, this feels so natural and organic because it's something so intimate to what we already know. All right. And then so in my party planning business, I mostly did technical writing. I also did blogging, but even within that blogging, there was some copywriting, there was some content marketing, but it was mostly technical because it was describing who was involved in the creation of it, any vendors and things. There was some story as far as why the party was being hosted, backstory of the family and so forth, any trends, any major trends and why they were coming up. But then the rest was just details. And then how they could order it, how they could recreate it themselves, and so on. And then the next is automatic writing. So this started when I became spiritually awakened, right? And the spiritual awakening happened when I had that appendicitis scare with my son. And I was in the hospital and I was 5 months pregnant. All right, the 5 was like a big spiritual thing. It was my awakening, my pentagram awakening. And I had one of my guides come in. She was a nurse. She was an African-American nurse. She put on a white cloth on her head. She came, she prayed over me. She put her hands over me and she helped me get through this pain. Okay. As soon as she started chanting in whatever language she was speaking, the pain just went completely away. Okay. And then at that point, then once I came to, then my husband was like, how is it that you're not in pain anymore? And I said, well, the nurse came and the woman came and she helped me. And he said, what are you talking about? What nurse? So to this day, I don't even know for sure if it was in my delirium that I visualized her, if it was an angel, if she was an actual nurse and she just heard me and she just came into my room to help me. I don't really know, but I do know that she was one of my guides and she was one of the first prompts into reconnecting to my Caribbean roots when it comes to Orisha and West African and all of the ancient practices that are pre-Christian, right? Before Christianity came in and said, hey, you can't do that anymore. And then it had to be consecrated, like for instance, in Santeria, it had to be consecrated. A lot of Roman Catholic deities had to be consecrated with African deities and Indian deities for that reason. So that was one of the first things. And I'm so grateful for her. And then, so when that happened, that really activated my awakening, right? I was a spirit, kind of like what's going on right now in the collective, where we're all being called to sit still, to go inward. Up until that point, I was in corporate, I was in this rat race, I was in my overly masculine, and I had never sat still because I grew up really poor, right? I come from a family that, I grew up on welfare, food stamps, and government housing and all those things. So I was always trying to get out of that environment. I was always moving and hustling and trying to get out, right? Reading my way out, working my way out. And then when this happened, I was put on bed rest for several months and it was like being killed. like a part of me had to die. A part of me had to die and I had to sit still. I had to go inward and I had to allow myself to heal. So my healing journey started during that time too. And through that awakening process, right, then came other awakenings. So I had my awakening to the Maya of work. So I left work and I knew that would never work for me ever again. Now that I was a mom, I knew that I wanted to be fully present with my kids. I wanted to be there for everything. And then eventually that led to the awakening of homeschooling and then having to leave my business to then homeschool my kids and devote and in a very selfless way, just pour into my kids. And then once I felt like that was in a good rhythm and that was okay, then when I felt the nudge and the soul whisper to start a blog, right, to document and share my homeschooling journey, because I felt like I learned a few things. I felt like I had achieved that state of mastery in many ways. Homeschooling never feels like you're done. You never feel like you're really a master because every year is different. Every year brings different challenges. Every stage of development, every age is different. But I felt like I had weathered enough storms where I had something to contribute, right? Something to share. And I also wanted to just document what was going on. So I started that blog, and then that led to a vlog where I started sharing videos. And that vlog is still up. So if you want to check it out, you can. It's called Learning and Lore. And so as I did that, as I started edging myself back, right? Slowly moving myself back to doing these sorts of paraprofessional things, right? Writing, creating, which is all what business is and work is and our soul work is, then that eventually led me to spirituality and then the last awakening, right? So there was the health also awakening with my son and in our family, so cleaning up our diet and all the things that happened there. And then after that was spirituality, so leaving Christianity and having this huge energy and all these things come up when it came to that. And automatic writing was part of that. So automatic writing, essentially what that is you're channeling thoughts. You're channeling and doing a brain dump, so to speak. But I found the best times that I've had automatic writing transmissions is when I set an intention before I sit down to write and I ask a question. And then I just write until I feel like I'm empty. So when you start, you have a question, you have a need, right? You have a desire. It could be personal. It could be related to your business. It could be a problem that you're having. It could be a weight that you're carrying or a past trauma or a memory that's weighing heavily on you and you want to process it and you want to shift it. Automatic writing helps. And in your business, the way that this helps is that if let's say you want to create a program or a product and you don't know what that is, you can sit down, set that intention, light a candle, ask your soul knowing and your body wisdom and your guides. And when you sit down to automatically write, eventually a theme will pop up. It might not be clear, but you'll see a recurring theme keep coming up. And then just like a crock pot, if you're a mom, just like a crock pot, you know how you set a crock pot to cook and simmer and cook something? The same thing happens when you automatically write and you do an automatic writing session. And if let's say you have a theme but you don't have enough clarity, then the next day you can do another automatic writing session. And then it just keeps getting clearer and clearer and clearer, like when we go get our eyesight checked and they do those little flip throughs. Eventually we get to the right lens and we see clearly what we should be birthing and what we should be sharing. The same thing happens with automatic writing. So it's a very sacred thing. It has so many multiple uses to journaling. Journaling is a little different because journaling is more of a daily routine. Automatic writing is more of a powerful theme. So journaling, to give you an idea from an energetic blueprint standpoint, journaling is like the sun rising, right? We do it every day. It's short. And there's usually a story and a narrative that you're putting in your journal. Automatic writing is like a lightning bolt. So it doesn't happen very often, or if it does happen, it's very fast and multi-session. And it has that supercharged energy because it's more spiritual than journaling in many ways, because you're setting the intention, you're asking yourself, your body, wisdom, your soul, your guide, spirit to come in. So it's a more fast-paced flow. It's also automatic. You don't think too much about it. Versus in journaling, you think about what you're going to write, right? How you're going to tell a story. Then the last one is copywriting. So copywriting, when I was in New York working with brands, I had to learn how certain brands worked, what kind of archetypes they embodied, what their signature style of writing was. And when you have multiple accounts, it can be difficult. You might feel a little bit of an identity crisis because when you're working on one account, you're writing in a certain way, or you're even communicating and sending emails in a certain way. And then when you're working with another, it's a completely different vibe and a different energy, right? Because again, copywriting is related to energy, life, emotion, storytelling. And it's very palpable, it's very sensorial, so the five senses, and it's opening up. The brand is essentially opening up and sharing something vulnerable, either from themselves or from their customers, whatever it is, their founder, and they're sharing it. So you have to step into the other person's shoes if you're being hired as a copywriter, for instance. I wasn't hired as a copywriter, I was a strategic planner and more on the IO psych end, doing focus groups and things. But I saw how you had to understand the brand's copywriting and their brand, their archetype, to be able to serve them and to do all the planning work. So in my business, that had to unravel. As great as those experiences were, right, and as valid as they were, when you become an online business coach, now you are the brand. It's your copy. So you have to find your voice. You have to forget about all the other voices that you've been in the past. You have to forget about how maybe you used to write for another brand if you've worked for companies. Now you have to write in your voice and you have to do it for yourself. And it's really hard. So I've gone through the missteps of writing, like if I'm writing in my journal. I've written how I used to write in academia. I've written technically. I've written in all the different ways. I've also written based off of templates, right? Almost like sales templates. You know how they sell sales templates or sales questions and scripts? The same thing can be done in marketing and in copywriting. And I did that for a really long time. I would, you hire coaches and they have this sort of framework and it doesn't work. If you are called to be a spiritual leader, a spiritual businesswoman, all those ways, all those very business ways that aren't spiritual won't work. You'll get crickets, things will fall flat, and you'll feel soul crushed and wondering why are people resonating with this other content, right? Quotes or other things, but not with my stuff. And it's because the other things that you're sharing that aren't your own have been coded by those people who created those pieces of content, and they've tapped into who they are. They've been fully lit up and on fire and in their genius, in their power, and in alignment to what they were supposed to share in that moment in time when they created that. And it's still rippling out. It's still carrying that vibration. And now you need to be able to do that for yourself. And that's what you need to do in copywriting. So in copywriting, you have to be lit up. You have to be fully turned on. You can't be out of your alignment or your vortex. If you follow Esther Hicks, you can't be out of your vortex. You can't be out of your energy. And you also can't be sharing something that you think people want, but it's not what you're being called to share. And you know in your soul what you're supposed to be sharing every single moment in time. So if you're not doing that, then you'll feel weird. You'll feel weird selling. You'll feel weird writing. And people could feel that. People can feel when you write something and you're completely sure of yourself and you're lit up and your heart is on and you know that you need to say this in the way that you want to say it. And it's not in the way like anybody else has said it. Okay? People can feel that. And now during this time where we've had this censorship, the gift in the censorship is that you can no longer be a copy of anybody else. You can no longer usurp and try to sound like anybody else because it's not going to work. And all of these words and all these phrases being blacklisted, it's challenging us to choose something else, to communicate what we want to say in a more elevated and ascended manner. So the question is, are you going to step up to the plate and tap into your soul language and communicate from this heightened state? Or are you going to continue to try to communicate in this old way that's gone, that's not going to work? Okay, it's like a fashion trend that, you know how you see people that wear these fashion trends from the 80s, but it's not chic and it looks out of place, and you just know that they're still wearing that hairstyle or they're still wearing that piece of clothing because they just haven't let go. They haven't let go. And you can tell that they don't even feel comfortable or love wearing it. They're just wearing it out of habit and out of resistance of shedding the old to embrace the new. The same thing can be said about messaging and how you communicate online and your copywriting and how you sell, because this is all interrelated. But our soul language how we speak, how we write is really the entry point, is the first thing that leads to everything else. So copywriting is really essential in that way. And what I learned is once I discovered my soul knowledge, so once I went through all these steps and I'm like praying and asking my guides, seeing what is going on, why is this not working? But eventually, during a meditation session, Spirit showed me like, hey, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it in the way that everybody else is doing. You're doing it in the human way. You need to look at it in the magical and metaphysical way. And in the magical and metaphysical way, what you're really doing is transporting an image. You are transporting people when you write. You're taking them out of whatever situation you're finding them in, right? When they come across a piece of your writing, you're taking them out of that energetic place. You're taking them out of that state that they're in, and you're bringing them into your vortex. You're bringing them into your energy, and you're reminding them of who they are. So a lot of copywriting should really be emphasizing not tips, not tricks, not mind stuff like what you know. That can be in there too, but what you're doing is reactivating people and like waking them up, shaking their energy up, and reminding them who they are as a soul level. Because whoever interacts with what you write and what you produce is meant to be in your life and is meant to be touched by you. So your copywriting touches people, and it's like tapping somebody in the shoulder and having them wake up and feel and activate and take in what you share. Almost also as well as like an aroma. Like, when you're at the mall, even though right now malls are kind of extinct, but if you remember what a mall is like, how at the mall, some people have these amazing scents on, right? And scent is so sensorial. It's so activating. It's also very memory triggering. And it also carries frequency and coding. So some scents are bright and fresh, others are romantic, others are woodsy and explorative, and you can even pick a scent that you wear that goes along with your archetype and your mission. So picture yourself, you're in the mall, you're walking around, and all of a sudden you smell a scent that just is soul aligned. It's activating. It reminds you of a trip in the woods when you went with your family by the lake in a summer, and it just completely transports you. And that's the power that copywriting has. So when you look at copywriting in this way, in this alchemical, powerful way, it changes everything. So this is what I want for you. So I hope that you'll join me in Soul Language. It's a 6-day immersion. It's a hybrid program. It's going to be 6 days of a course and then 3 days of Q&A, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. EDT. The courses get released at 6 p.m. EDT, and then the Q&As on those 3 days happen at 8 p.m. EDT. So I hope that you'll join me. We're going to be going over what I've learned and how I incorporate this and how it's so different. So you're going to have an opportunity to learn the ins and outs of that, and then also practice and incorporate it. And I'll also do a mini brand audit and see what your brand is communicating right now and how you can shift your communication so it's more in this way. So if you're interested in that, PM me or send me a message, and I'll send you the link for that. The early bird is $66 USD until next week, Thursday, 8/26, and then after that it goes up to $666, and we start on the 6th of September. So it's September 6th all the way to the 11th. So I hope that you enjoyed this live. Please share this with anybody that you feel can really embrace and integrate what I've shared here today and really needs it. And I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.